Homesteads.
Homesteads, and where are the homesteads at?
Mostly out in like not suburban, like
Rural?
in countries.
In rural areas in the country, and specifically, which state are you talking about?
Mostly in North Dakota.
Okay, awesome. All right, guys, you can turn and face the class now, since you showed Kanan what we have there, and anybody else who's going to watch our video. All right, go ahead. You can get started.
Mostly Germans and Russians build their sheds and garages onto their houses. People use cheesecloth and newspaper for their ceilings. They dig out a cellar by the side or under their home and put drinks and food in there for the winter. They build houses like brick houses and sod houses and models. They use tar paper to waterproof their roofs. They use whitewash to paint. That's mostly what they use to do.
Okay, so those were some of the different types of houses that people who homesteaded in North Dakota had. Did they talk about which houses were warmer or which ones worked better at all?
No. But mostly, they usually have an open kitchen and they usually have their oven on from the morning all the way to before bed.
Okay, so they'd be like a big potbelly stove or fireplaces, or what did they have?
Mostly like a fireplace or a potbelly from a stove or something like that.
Okay. All right.
They also keep the house warm.
Okay, very cool. And did they have a lot of stuff in their houses, or did they have not very much stuff, or how were they?
They would usually just have some tables and chairs and beds mostly.
Okay. So what did they do with their stuff if they weren't using it? Since they lived in pretty small places, right? Did they tell you?
Sometimes they would put them in the sheds because German Russians would build their sheds onto their house.
Okay, so things that they didn't use all the time, they'd store in their sheds and things.
Yeah.
Did you come across any pictures where they had things hung up on the walls, like chairs and things during the day, and they brought them down to eat with it when they were having supper and things? Yeah? Okay. So was there a specific type of house people from different countries who migrated here lived in, or did they all kind of live in the same kind of stuff?
They could build their own house or however they wanted.
Okay. So the people who were German Russian, did they live more in houses that were sod or houses that were built out of wood, or what did they choose?
I would think that they mostly have sod houses connected to a lodge.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Did you guys have any questions for our houses group?
How big were the houses normally? Well, sometimes it'd be obviously when they didn't tell us, but I would think to a pretty big house. But
they sometimes build their cellars in their sheds.
Not quite. They would have it outside so they would go out and it would stay cold instead of in a warm house. They want their food and drinks cold.
How long did they build their own houses, or did someone build them for them?
They'll build their own houses.
Did the food ever get rotten in the cellars?
That's what the cellar is for. Sometimes they eat it fast, all the drinks wouldn't be good. So, or some of the food would rot. Sometimes they would eat it a little bit and make 10 months or a week. But
so the more of the stuff that lasts longer, they more eat that after some of the food that expires pretty quickly.
Pretty much.
Okay.
Awesome. So they didn't have refrigerators?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Okay. Did they have electricity?
No, they didn't really have much.
Okay. So how did they light their houses?
They would use candles or their stove stuff.
Did they have kerosene lamps at all? Things like that?
They might, but I don't remember.
You don't remember? Okay. All right. Yep. And what you were talking about, those cellars, they actually called them root cellars. Some of them were called that. And if you've ever seen some of the older houses, at some farmsteads and stuff, you can see that door that outside the house that you can open up or comes up, and you have steps going down. That's where a lot of their root cellars were. Some of them were in the house too, but
Yeah, didn't they have cellars in
Yep, that's where a lot of people go for those. Yep. They would use that. Okay, Ben, what's up?
When my grandparents took us to go look at things in the house, there were bins, which is already up, and we're living in now.
Yeah.
We actually found like a little root cellar in the basement that's pretty cold in there, and my grandma was saying that it's probably for like potatoes or something to keep them cool.
Yep, that's it. That's where they stored a lot of their things that came from their gardens and things, so that they'd have them through the winter. All right, can you give these guys a hand? They did amazing. Thank you. If you guys just want to set that down on the table over there, we'll go put those on display when our other group is finished, okay? All right, you boys, Keaton and Dexter, are you guys ready to come present?
Sure.
All right.
Should I put the church?
That'll work.
This was going to be like an inside view, but we didn't have enough time to.
All right,
to
looks
do a
like it's
few.
pretty good though. You want to turn it so the rest of your group can see it too?
This was supposed to be an inside view, but we didn't have enough time to make church or pews.
That's all right. That's a very open church concept. It'll work. All right. So what were you guys covering for us?
Churches and entertainment.
Ooh, all right. Who's gonna start?
I will start with churches.
Okay.
Okay, so this is the book of churches.
Okay.
We didn't really have any words in there though.
It's really just
This is
pictures.
our first design of a church.
Okay.
This is our sketch of this one.
Okay.
We didn't have enough time to make everything. And then we have another sketch of a smaller version, like a smaller version.
Okay.
And then here's some stuff you can read.
Okay. What did you learn about the church?
That there were like two types of church, Catholic and Lutheran.
Lutheran.
Yeah,
Okay.
churches. The German, Russians, the Scandinavians, they used Lutheran churches.
Mm-hmm.
And people that came from other states used them, Catholic.
Okay. Like more people from like where England and things like that were Catholic, or from which countries?
I mean, like, people from different states.
Okay. All people from other states, or just some?
Most people.
Okay. So you're saying most of the people who were already here were Catholic?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
No.
Okay.
I didn't read all of it, so I don't know everything.
Yeah,
They started.
we just read entertainment because he really didn't write.
So I did not.
So you're
know
not
any of those
sure.
questions.
We're not really sure. We did read it all, me and Derek did,
Okay.
before.
So what you're saying that most of the people who came to North Dakota who were of Scandinavian descent,
Yeah, that's what I know. They mostly use Lutheran.
most were Lutheran. Okay. All right. That makes sense to me. All right. Keaton, what did you have to share with us?
I have
We'll
the
talk
book
about
of
this.
entertainment, and this is a football. I think they could have had footballs back then.
Okay.
And then we had
Uh,
hunting rifle.
Yeah, hunting was really popular back then. So we did a rifle, and we did a pistol too.
So why did they hunt?
Because
For
they
the
needed
food.
food for their families.
Oh, okay. So they weren't hunting just for fun, were they?
No.
No. They were hunting so they could help their survival, right?
Most people.
Eat the
Devontae, it's time for you to go, kiddo.
And then we did a playground because I think they could have had playgrounds back there too.
Well, my guy for them. That actually kind of works because my guy from the Wax Museum inspired churches during his term as president.
That's way later than this, though, right?
This is during the 1900s and the 1800s.
Right. But you have FDR. He was in about the 1930s. This is a little but previous to that. This is when they first settled in North Dakota.
Yeah, but he said that he was.
But he wasn't president then, kiddo.
Yeah, I know, but in the book he said.
Okay.
He
And
was-
that's
he wanted to
fine.
fight
I
in
understand that,
the
but they're
Mexican
two different
War.
time frames, right?
Yeah.
Okay, this is
Sorry.
when they were first settling North Dakota that you guys are talking about. And you talked about FDR. FDR was not he had nothing to do with this part of it. Okay? So don't get those confused.
I think I'm getting confused with Teddy Roosevelt.
He wasn't part of the original settling either. He's later.
Theodore?
Yes. It's a little later.
Theodore Roosevelt's a little later too.
Yes.
Lewis and Clark expedition.
Yes. That's in this time frame.
That's the thing to go on.
Yeah.
Questions?
Yes, Weston?
What kind of game did they hunt?
I think it's about mostly deer or rabbit. What is that?
Would they ever set up like posts anywhere?
During entertainment, I think it actually showed a picture of that.
Anything else?
Yeah.
Yes.
What's the difference between Catholic and
No idea right now.
Lutheran.
They're two different types of religion. They just have different things the way they practice.
Yeah, I
Yep.
didn't know the difference.
Yeah, they just have a different way of how they practice things. They still both religions believe in God. They just do it in a different way. So it's fine.
Going once, going twice.
Okay, give them a hand, please. Did Jordan and Mason, did you guys get to go yesterday? Okay, you guys are up.
Put it back there.
Just set it on that table for now. We'll go put them up in a few minutes. Okay, so what are you guys going to teach us today? About schools. Sweet. All right. So what do you have to teach us about schools?
How they taught back then.
Okay, how did they teach back then?
Well, they usually.
There usually was lots of kids in a school because there weren't that many schools back then.
Okay, so they had like one-room schoolhouses. All right. How many grades did they have in the schools?
I think it was all of them.
Yep, they did have all of them. They had like first grade through seniors. Although most of the kiddos back then, they stopped going to school when they turned about 16. That's kind of how it was. It changed throughout the years where they stayed in school longer. So what else do you have to tell us about the schools?
Well, they have to be 18 to teach,
Okay.
and if they got married, they couldn't teach anymore. And in 1883, there were public schools,
Mm-hmm.
and in 1889, there were about 1,400 schools. And in 1910, there were way over 8,000 schools. There were about 20 to 10 kids in a classroom at a time.
And they were all from different grades still, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. You had some good facts.
And more than they shut up.
That's really neat. So did they just use the school buildings for school, or were they sometimes used for other things?
Yeah, they're used for church.
There's a lot of times they were used for church also. Okay.
On the weeks they had school, and at night they might have church.
So they have church at night sometimes or on the weekends in the same building? Okay. Did they use them for anything else?
I did lose my other fact.
Okay, that's all right. Sometimes they use them as places where they could do polling, like where they'd go vote. They even still do that at some schools where people come into the school to vote, like during times when they vote for presidents or different things because they're like a good location. And sometimes they use them like where everyone would go to meetings at and things like that because they were a kind of a spot that they use for that stuff.
Sometimes they have like when you know the PTA at our school, didn't they have something like that at the school?
Probably. They might have had something like an early start of something like that, yeah. Okay, so what else? Anything else exciting that you guys have to share with us?
Not really.
Not really? Okay.
In some classes, they have about 20 kids in one class.
Okay, so some classes might have a whole bunch of kids in it and the next class has like one person. Yeah. My dad and my mom actually went to a one-room schoolhouse and until they then they started at a bigger school like in Carrington after that. But when they first were going, well, my dad, when he was first going to school, he went to a one-room schoolhouse that was up the road about 5 miles that had all the grades in it until that the school in Carrington was built, and then they started going to school in Carrington. My mom went to school in Edgeley, then in Fezzen, and then in New Rockford. So, but she went to a one-room schoolhouse when she was up by Edgeley for a while. So, I have a connection with that. Your grandma did too, honey? Yep. Kind of cool, right? I'm hoping to get us a tour out at a site that Keaton's grandparents. They do tours out there. I'm hoping to do that this spring. There's a bunch of schoolhouses out there. That'd be kind of fun, I think. I do too. All right, any questions for this group?
This isn't too much of a question, but my friend Nolan, not the Nolan in the school though.
Mm-hmm.
His grandma and grandpas have a one-room schoolhouse by their house.
That's pretty awesome.
So does my grandma and grandpa.
Okay. Yep. Yes, that's what we were just talking about, Keaton.
How long did the school days go?
They were pretty long, but not that long. I forgot how much. Some school days are about 4 hours.
Okay, so then it didn't go the whole day?
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I suppose not because a lot of the kids had to work on the farm, didn't they? All right. One last, I think we're probably done with questions so we can get moving on with other things. You want to give these guys a hand, please? All right. Nice work, kiddos.